Hey guys, welcome back to the Misfit Independent podcast. I'm here with Kalya Trivieri, and today we're going to be talking about NFTs, Web3, and all things crypto.
Very exciting.
So if you guys don't know, Kayla is famous for a series called NFTs for Hot Girls, and we're going to get into all of that today. First, I want to say I absolutely love the fact that you are in this space showing women how to get into this space, because I am so tired of seeing crypto bros mansplain all things tech.
I think we all are. I think we're all a little bit tired, and it's time we have like a new face, new perspective, a new take on like what's going on in the industry. And it's not that I don't think women don't want to get involved in the conversation or don't know how to. It's like, it's just not interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've always found. It's like, I'm not really interested in hearing this stuff from the way it's being delivered or who it's being told from. So I was like, I feel like I can learn anything.
It's just not presented in a way that's captivating.
Yeah.
In a way that like women relate to, you know what I mean? A lot of the examples that we're seeing, a lot of the use cases, like as a woman, I don't necessarily understand the appeal of owning a Bored Ape.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, that connection isn't as clear until someone explains like the rarity and, you know, all of the different elements behind that. So why don't we start with how you got into the space?
Yeah.
And then we can talk about what NFTs are for anyone that's not fully in the ecosystem.
For sure. Okay, so I like to call it my villain era origin story. So every time someone asks me, they're like, how did you get in this space? What happened? So it goes back. I've been actually working in tech for like 4 or 5 years now. I started my career. I've been working at IBM as part of their AI and IoT team. And I actually was a designer when I started my career. I was a user experience designer and kind of worked my way up through my career and kind of transitioned more into like a product owner, a business analyst, kind of PM hybrid role. And I've always worked in like blockchain projects on anything to do with AI, OCR. So I learned quite a bit in the space. And again, like I didn't really have a huge like technical background. I didn't know a ton of things. But everything I've learned through my career, I'm like, this stuff is really not that complicated.
Once you break it down.
Yeah,
but
once you break it down, it's really intimidating to look at. But then once you actually get into like the depths and the cores of what everything is, you're like, oh, this is actually quite simple. It's really not that complicated. Why did I think it was so confusing or intimidating to get into? And then over the Christmas break, I've like obviously been hearing a lot about NFTs and like, what is this? Like, let me see. Like I had this vision. I'm like, I'm going to start an NFT. I'm going to create a series and I'm going to sell it. Because why not? I could do anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it literally anything, nothing is that complicated. So I was like, I'm just going to become a billionaire because all these kids apparently can do it. So I can figure it out too.
If a 12-year-old kid can do it, why
can't I? Why can't I? Totally. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out.
Okay.
So I posted a video and I was like, I'm going to become an NFT billionaire. It goes completely viral. And then people were asking all these questions like, what is an NFT? All like, what does this mean? What does it do? Isn't it just a JPEG? And then I started this series of NFTs for hot girls and I broke it down explaining what an NFT was. And that again, it just like kept on going viral and viral. My account blew up and now I guess I'm looked at as like an NFT hot girl.
Well, you definitely are.
Yeah.
I think the first step is the fact that like you deeply understand the space.
Yeah.
So when you talk about it online, like you're coming from a place of knowledge. It's not just like, you know, you're making things up or you're like repeating what somebody else is saying. So why don't you walk us through like how you got into the spaces specifically? So with Discord, like Discord is a huge community where a lot of people that invest in NFTs go to. So how do you, if you want to learn more, how do you get into those communities? How do you interact with them?
I think Discord is one of those things you kind of spiral into. Like, again, I'm completely new to get Discord as of this year, basically. Like, I've never really been familiar with it. And how I've basically figured it out, my friend who's a huge gamer was like, it's basically the gaming version of Slack. And you get into it, you're like, oh, this is like a web version of Slack. Like, very simple to figure out, but it's like a giant web chat where like anyone can message you. So once you join certain communities, other people will message you or invite you to other communities. And then all of a sudden you're in all these different Discord communities for different things, for NFTs. Also, Twitter is huge with NFTs in that space. Like, I'm more of a Twitter girl. I've been on Twitter for like a decade now. It's insane to say that. Like, probably since 2008, I've been on Twitter.
I've been on Twitter since 2008. Had to go back and delete all of my tweets from 2008.
Oh yeah, I had to do that too. I was like, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like high school me tweeting lyrics. I was on there when YFrog was a thing to upload a picture. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, if you wanted to upload a picture to Twitter, you would have to use this app called YFrog, and it was like a link to the picture, so people would click the link to see. I don't know. It was a very early stage.
Interesting. I didn't even know that Twitter had a phase where you couldn't upload photos.
Yeah,
I think maybe I joined a little bit later, but yeah, Twitter is definitely big for NFTs, especially Jack Dorsey's first tweet being sold for 3 million. Like, crazy.
So lots has happened since then, and now we're going from making tweets to selling tweets. And it's interesting to see how the space is going to continue to evolve. But Twitter, honestly, is personally my favorite place to find NFT content, information. And I made a post today. I was like, by time anything can even get published into an article or to a textbook, it's probably already outdated. So your best thing is actually just to go right into the trenches and kind of figure it out as you go.
So would you say, like, if you want to research and dive into the space, you go to Twitter? Where do I start? Like, do I look up hashtags? Are there people that you would recommend following?
I started with hashtags, and since then I've followed like different accounts and stuff like that. There's certain, like, obviously public figures who are really big into the NFT space. Surprisingly, Reese Witherspoon is huge into NFTs, which is really random, but she's a really big support of the community and invests a lot. Paris Hilton's starting to get into it. Jack Dorsey, obviously, Alex Ohanian. Who else is big? And
so Mark Zuckerberg's sister, Randy Zuckerberg, met her at a conference. She's huge in that space.
Yeah, she's doing a conference coming soon, I think. Yeah, there's lots of people who are like getting into the NFT space, so it's very exciting.
Definitely. Okay. So that's how we get into learning about it. But with Discord, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know, is just an app. It's like an app for community, so people go in there and they chat about different projects. So you can have a Discord channel for a specific NFT project that's coming out. And people will come in there and they'll try to build hype for the project. And a lot of NFTs right now are built on hype.
Right. There's a lot of hype. I also feel like we're in this like NFT bubble space where, again, I was talking to a friend about it, like so many people, quote unquote, got rich off of crypto, but now they have to find areas and avenues to invest in to either make more money or transfer the funds. So they invest in these projects, and the value in that can go up, and then they can sell it and then cash out on more money. So it's interesting to see how people are like flipping things and what's happening. But I think eventually this is going to be phased out because there's actually a lot of really great use cases for NFTs.
In terms of speculation, like the people that are flipping are making crazy
money. Yeah. And I've also heard rumors too. There's like Discord communities where people like obviously are like, okay, we're all going to invest in this. We're going to pump up this project, and then rug pull, all the money's gone, and that's kind of it. Or like the person who is the quote unquote face, I guess they don't have a face, just disappears. So they take all the money and leave.
That's basically what a rug pull is. It's like when somebody who creates a community or a project just disappears and you see a mass sell-off. Yeah. And usually it's people that have been involved in the project from day one, or
there's like slower rug pulls too. They start trickling out. They're not as active in the Discord community. So there's usually like certain signs that people can see of like, oh, this project was a scam.
How do you see the signs? Because there are so many new NFTs popping up every day. Like, I get so many DMs with people messaging me about like cheetahs and all
projects,
so many different projects.
When you promote this project, like literally I get hundreds of messages. It's insane. There's really no way to know. Do your research, be very careful, but it's literally, we're in the Wild West stages of like anything could happen. Even I've seen celebrities promote certain projects and they've not been legitimate. Like, just because someone's a celebrity does not mean they know what they're talking about. Or
like Kim Kardashian getting sued. She promoted a couple of different altcoins. SEC is going after her. Yeah.
So you have to be careful. Like, it's still a very new space. We don't know what's going on. You have to be really careful. Do your research. Do your due diligence. Even if you do that, you like could still end up in a rug pull situation. So it happens.
It's terrifying to think about. Like, I've been privy to a couple of rug pull situations, not in the NFT space, but more so just like in crypto in general. Yeah. But I liked what you said about people that are like people that invest in Ethereum, for example. Yeah. They have stacked their ETH, and ETH dropped significantly in value. So in order to retain that value, NFTs haven't dropped, like certain projects. A lot of NFTs, and I'm sure you think the same, like 90% of them are going to drop to zero or just completely fail. Yeah. So a lot of speculation, a lot of hype in the space. But I've seen a lot of very smart people that know the space as well will invest into different projects in order to keep the value of Ethereum and to avoid the massive ups and downs that we're seeing right now.
Exactly. And so I guess you see that with like in real life with money laundering and paintings, of like having this inflated value of a piece of art, but then not having to like pay taxes or anything on it, and then owning it, and then it goes into your portfolio as like, oh, I own this $10 million piece of art, right? So it kind of reflects back in the digital world too. And obviously people are like, well, how do you avoid that? Or like, it's just for money laundering, it's just a scam. And I'm like, it's gonna happen in real life, it's gonna happen on the online too. Like, you can't prevent anything from
happening.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
like that you say it's the Wild West. Like, it really is.
It's the Wild West out here. Like, you have no idea what's happening. Like, there's no real way. Just like, be careful, be aware. I don't know.
But instead of talking about the negatives, let's move into like some of the really interesting use cases, because there's some super cool initiatives happening in the space, and I feel like you probably know so much about different applications, and fashion and music. So let's get into that a bit.
So I'm really excited about the future use cases. Like I said, I feel like sure there's some downfalls, but I feel like the uprising of NFTs in this whole space is going to be so impactful. And I've talked to so many people. I'm like, we're about to enter a Renaissance era again. Like, we have no idea what we're stepping into. This is time for like creators to shine, creators, artists, everything. Like, after historically speaking, after a downturn in history, whether it's like a plague, a recession, or whatever, there's always something that comes out of that. It's usually a positive. So I think that's kind of like our version of the Roaring 20s, and like, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, especially after COVID and everything's happening. I think people are ready to like celebrate and move on with their lives. And especially with the transition from Web 2 to Web 3. So I think this is where the NFT space is going to get really interesting, because creators now don't own any of their work. So if I am an artist or a creator and I post my stuff on TikTok, on Instagram, Twitter, wherever, it's not really mine anymore. It's now Instagram's, it's Twitter's, it's Facebook's. They own kind of that digital entity of whatever I post. And I don't have access to know who my followers are. I don't have access to know who engages with my stuff. I don't have access to directly communicate with an audience on a one-to-one level, not on a third-party platform. So I think this is where the NFT space is going to get really interesting for artists, is like, I can now sell and control whatever I want and post into like a Web3 space, my artwork or my pieces or my music, especially music. I think this is a huge use case that's going to come out of this, is like, artists right now are signed to these 360 deal contracts and basically get screwed out of their money if you're with a record label. But if you're an independent artist and you can issue your music as an NFT, that can mean so much for you, right? So
like Nas.
Yeah.
Nas and Diplo, right?
Yes. Nas has a really big project coming out, which is very cool. So basically, if I wanted to issue an album, I could sell it as an NFT. I could sell the music as an NFT, issue as many copies as I want, whatever. But because I get royalties, which is something I don't get from a record label, even if I wanted to issue my music for free or whatever, someone could still resell a song for $1,000 and someone could buy it, right? But then I'm still getting the royalties off of every resale. Right. Where I don't have access to that if I'm signed with a record label.
And especially with Spotify, the record label works with Spotify directly.
Yeah.
So as an artist, even though your music's on Spotify getting billions of streams, you're not getting paid for that.
Exactly. And so I think that's one big pain point for a lot of artists right now. And if Spotify is going to sit on its laurels, it's going to get wiped out immediately. Not immediately, but over time by some other Web3 player who's going to give that access to the artist to make their own money. So you're going to see that a lot with a lot of artists. I think it's going to be interesting. It's like they can capitalize on their own work, on how they want to promote their own work, sell their own work. Another really big example I talk about is ticketing. So Ticketmaster is another place I think is going to get disrupted. If I'm an artist doing a show, then I have control over selling my own tickets at whatever price I want. Whereas Ticketmaster now has control. Also, Ticketmaster owns StubHub, which is very interesting. I'm sure most people are familiar with StubHub, a resale platform. So whoever is reselling their ticket on StubHub, or if it's StubHub bots, whatever, there's a lot of speculation of that. The artist doesn't benefit, and the fans for sure don't benefit of having to pay for an overinflated ticket because they couldn't get first access to Ticketmaster, whatever the reason is they couldn't get their original price.
Interesting. I don't know if is that a conspiracy theory about like bots buying out?
Yeah, I've seen that a few times. Like,
it's
I don't know
really
if it's
interesting because I've tried to buy like tickets for festivals, for example.
Yeah.
And right away, like even though it's not as popular of a festival, tickets are sold out.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then they'll just get reposted at StubHub for 10 times the price. And so
like what happened with OVO. I don't know if you remember OVO last year. 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When concerts were still a thing.
Yeah.
The same thing happened where the concert got oversold right away.
Yeah.
And then instantly, like the day after, people were selling for like huge markups.
Right.
And
yeah.
people bought tickets specifically to resell them.
Yeah, exactly. And people do that all the time, right?
Yeah.
So if you're selling your tickets as an NFT, if I buy a ticket for a OVO, for example, or for Drake for $100 and I can't go, I want to resell it for someone wants to bid for $200, Drake still gets the royalties off of my resale, even though I still get $100 profit, right? So that makes it really interesting of how artists now can also benefit from this space and get royalties off of their original tickets.
Interesting.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, because I guess we don't have control over what the resale would be like, because it's all going to be supply and demand, or whatever someone is willing to accept as an offer if someone wants to bid on their ticket. But even if artists start issuing like digital ticketing for free for other things like a poster or a collectible item or something cool that people feel connected to them, I think that's also like very cool to have. Like people collect posters or just even like their ticket stubs after a concert, and it's kind of like memorabilia for people. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that space too.
Definitely. I want to backtrack a little bit to Web3 because we talked about it, but we kind of like skid past it, and that's like the core foundation that a lot of this is going to be built on. So how does somebody understand what Web3 is? But let's start with Web2.
Web2. So basically Web2 is what we see right now with all the platforms of, we have like a lot of walled gardens is what they call it. So places like Facebook where you don't have access to your data. It's all centralized in one place. Banking, for example, is like a very centralized thing. You can't see your transactions. It's only between you and your bank. No one else really has access to that. You have these big players like I said, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, very Web2. But Web3 is all about decentralization, people having access to the data, blockchain technology, which is very interesting, and very going to be like revolutionizing in terms of what's happening in the tech space. So the example I use is like I said, Facebook, Instagram. If I post something, I can see that I have 10,000 followers, but I don't know who they are. I can't, unless I wanted to DM them directly to be like, hey, what's your email? I want to send you something. You can't really interact with them on that kind of level.
That's why owning email lists, like if you're a business, is so key, because like you own your customers.
Exactly. So now this is empowering people to have access to their own database of customers, of their emails, of how to interact and share in an open space, right? We don't have access to that right now, and that's going to change everything. So how I like to say it is like, if we remember the like feed page of like what people are doing to describe blockchain on Instagram, where you can see like who liked what, it's like now everyone's gonna have access to everything, and it's like an open network. So if we're
that's kind of scary as well, right? Because the lines are gonna be blurred, and you can see what everybody else is doing because it's on the blockchain, it's on a ledger. I've seen this as well. Like sometimes if I am exploring a project, and let's say it's like a private pre-sale for an altcoin, I will try to look up what the address is, and then I can see different addresses, and it's like a web of information, and then you can see like everything, how much money somebody has in a certain wallet, and it's like fascinating, but definitely a little bit scary. That
is like one of the frightening things. It's like, okay, but now if everyone does have access to everyone's data, like what does that look like, right? And so I think in a hypothetical context, it works because there's transparency amongst everybody, but it's also, it can breed, I guess, fear of like, I don't want people to know my information. I want that to be private. So, but people can choose to be private in the Web3 space. There's ways to do that too.
Interesting. I know there's a lot of companies that are focused on security and like trying to,
like people have like multiple wallets and like private identities, so like there's ways around that in a sense, but
I mean there's definitely private identities, but you can see that this private identity that has a Bored Ape still sends all this money around, and then you're like, who is this person?
Who is that? It's very interesting. So it's going to be a complex problem to solve, and I think getting people on board to that idea is also going to be interesting too, of like the response.
I don't know if I feel more comfortable with the company owning my data, having a department of people that are specifically responsible for like data protection and privacy, or do I feel more comfortable owning it on my own and now being responsible for everybody seeing it and just it being out in the open? So it's an interesting debate of like what's better,
right? And it's like two like it's like governance, I guess, really, of like two ways of seeing governance and how that works. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like politics too. It's like there's different sides and there's different ways, and people can argue what works and what doesn't work. And then there's different perspectives, and it's just, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
100%.
Yeah.
I think the beauty of blockchain is the fact that it is decentralized, though. I was playing devil's advocate a little bit. I'm a big fan of decentralization. I think like power to the people. We shouldn't have these big financial institutions that, like banks, for example. Yeah. We should have people that make decisions, like DAOs. I talked about that on one of my previous episodes. I think that is fascinating. Like that's where I see government heading. But at the same time, when you have a big group of people making a decision or being responsible for data and things like this, decisions get made a lot slower.
Yeah.
And it becomes difficult to have everybody agree on one thing. Especially like in a homogeneous society, let's say like Sweden. It's easier because people have like the same values. They grew up in the same way. Whereas like in the US and Canada, you have, a melting pot of all kinds of different cultures. Yeah. People don't think the same way.
No, they don't.
Think about like even political preferences. So it's definitely going to be fascinating.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
And like, what are people going to do when they're given that kind of power too? I was talking to my friend about this with DAOs. We're like, can people persuade people to go one way? And it can go terribly wrong if people are given their own power to make their own decisions. And it's a majority of people who maybe have like a very different perspective or view of how they want to govern things, and it could be terrible or
could be anarchy.
Great. Yeah, exactly.
Like it's literally one step away from anarchy.
Literally, that's what we're saying. We're like, anything could really happen though. Like we don't really know how people would behave too. Of, like giving that opportunity to make decisions.
Really is the Wild West.
It is.
Yeah. So many exciting things though. So we talked about like different applications. We broke down like the difference between Web 2 and Web 3. So Web 3, if we were to summarize it and like explain it like I'm 5, the big thing is that people own their data instead of companies. Yeah. And it's all visible on a ledger, on a blockchain. So there's a lot more nuances that will then go into that. But I don't want to get into that in too much detail. Yeah. I want to talk about more so like the future for NFTs. Right. So I know you launched a really cool NFT project that I want to get into, but I also want to throw some ideas with you, like throw some ideas around. So I'm getting married soon. Okay. I want to send out wedding invites as an NFT. Yeah. I want to like break down and teach people how to download MetaMask, like how to create a wallet. Yeah. Not download MetaMask, but how to use MetaMask, how to create a wallet, how to receive an airdrop, which basically people don't sit and do nothing. Yeah. But I want to walk through that process. So if I want to do that, walk me through what the steps are and like how to actually make that happen. Okay.
It's actually funny you say this because we were kind of chatting earlier. Yeah. I want to shout out App and Bio right now really quickly. Katie is someone I met in San Francisco, and what their team is actually specializing in is like people having access to creating their own NFTs through their own subscriber community. So it's very cool that you say you want to create your own invitation or tickets or whatever. And their company is doing just that. So it's actually going to be very easy for people to onboard into their platform. And I think their idea is absolutely brilliant. So say I'm Kayla and I have you subscribing to me. I have your email and I can send you NFT newsletters or tickets or whatever it may be directly to whoever I choose, right? Mm-hmm. So like that's very cool. I wish I was invited to your wedding. Maybe I'll do that. That's a great idea. Wedding invites as NFTs. And so you can make, I don't know, a flyer or an invitation of your wedding.
Have a website, like that's really common. People have a website, so I'm thinking website, and then you like walk through the steps. So this is how you create a wallet. This is how you receive an airdrop, and then here you go. Here's your invite.
Yeah, that would be very cool. Yeah, you can take them through the steps of like, okay, this is like you said, this is how you create a MetaMask wallet. Here are the steps. It's very simple. This is how we're gonna issue our NFTs. It'll be free. Download it, then you have it in your wallet, and then that'll be your invitation to get into the wedding.
I'm thinking of also creating this is kind of like an out of the box idea, but my boyfriend or my fiance has been collecting a bunch of embarrassing photos of me, and I have like a ton of embarrassing photos of him. So as like an event at the wedding, like you get to bid for an NFT, and it's like a unique digital asset that only you own, and it's like an embarrassing photo.
That's funny. That's really funny, actually. That's a very interesting use case. Yeah. Selling your embarrassing spousal photos for bid at your wedding.
So we'll see if it actually happens. But in terms of minting it, I think it's not going to be too difficult.
I don't think so. Yeah. That'd be really funny. Yeah. I wonder how much people would pay.
For some of them, I have some pretty
bad
ones. Yeah.
Are you gonna show them up on like a screen, be like, you can buy this NFT?
I don't know. I feel like I might have it be more of like unknown and just like a black photo.
Is it gonna be a surprise until you actually get
exactly
it? That's kind of fun.
And then the value of it goes up too. Like if some are super bad, like somebody else might want to
trade it. Yeah. They're like, oh, I want that one. Oh, I want that bad picture of you.
So that's just funny. An idea. We'll see how it goes.
No, I love that. That'll be good.
So there's a ton of different things that you can do in the space, but essentially, like, the big thing with NFTs is it's just digital ownership. Yeah. So people who talk about, NFTs are just right click and save, like, we're so far beyond that. Yeah. And I think it's critical for people to understand that it's, even with these embarrassing photos, that one person will own it and can do what they want with it. Exactly. So a little bit scary for me, because I don't know if I want my friends to have that much power.
Yeah. Know what I was also thinking? After your wedding photos, you can like issue all the pictures as NFTs.
That could be a good idea too.
Yeah. And so then people can either like bid or like buy them, or you could sell them for free. But like everyone can have that. Here's your NFT photo. This is a memory from our wedding. Like that's really fun. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you get to teach a bunch of people how to interact with the space and then go out and purchase their own NFTs. So
yeah, exactly.
A lot of exciting stuff here. Yeah. But I want to talk about your project specifically and how it's evolved, how you started with it, and where it's at now.
Yeah. My first collection that I issued was called Material Girls. And again, this is very new when I was in the NFT space. My first thing I ever launched. And I was like, again, I feel like I have a platform on TikTok now. People will buy these. Like I could list them for as many ETH as I want, and someone would be dumb enough to purchase. And I'm like, it's really not that simple. Yeah. So I made this Material Girls collection. It's very Y2K inspired. Pink pixel art of my favorite like products that I would use in day-to-day life. And there's kind of this trend on TikTok too called Material Girl. Yeah. This song. So I thought it would tie in really great with that. And I thought it was just like cheeky, fun, and cute, whatever. So I posted about it on TikTok, and I'm like, okay, I made my Material Girls collection. Someone go buy it. No one bought it because I listed it for I think like 1 Ethereum, which I'm like, no one's buying my pixel art even for that much money.
Not yet.
Not yet. I've been promoting. I'm like, you know what? Maybe someday will just see it and buy it and be like, hey, I own this, which would be funny. But until then, we're waiting. I also issued my NFTs for Hot Girls series on OpenSea as well. Okay. But I'm selling those for like $20 because I was like, you know what? So many people are reposting this video without my permission. This kind of goes back to the whole NFT thing. I'm like, you don't have ownership of that video. You never asked me to repost that or repurpose that content for your own use.
Interesting. So you made the video into an NFT?
Yeah.
Very cool.
The video into an NFT. So I'm like, if you want to use it, here's the link and you can go buy a copy.
By the way, let's just plug your TikTok in case anybody hasn't found it yet. So
yeah, I'm Ktrivz, KTRIVZ on TikTok if you don't already know.
Definitely check it out, and then you can see what what NFTs for Hot Girls actually are.
Yeah, what NFTs for Hot Girls are, exactly. Because I was getting frustrated. I'm like, it's great to have exposure from a lot of platforms, but also these platforms on Instagram or whatever have millions of followers and they make money through ads and whatnot from posting people's content like this, but like I don't see any of that. So this kind of gets into that conversation too of like the benefits of NFTs, of who has the ownership of what, right?
Right. I actually had that happen to a friend of mine. So she's a comedian. She posted a video on TikTok of her doing impressions really quickly of like Drew Barrymore. I don't know if you've seen it. Went absolutely viral. Yeah. And then people posted it on YouTube. So somebody posted it on YouTube. It got 3 million views. And she was like, they didn't even tag me or credit me. Yeah. Which is so frustrating. It's so frustrating. Like as a creator, you go out, you spend time, like you learn these skills. And then for someone else to just not give you the credit that you deserve.
It's so frustrating.
So hats off to you for finding a solution
to that. I know. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do. If someone messaged me again for my permission, I'm like, here, you can have this video. You can buy it from me.
Nice.
Yeah. And you can buy it as an NFT. So we all win.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a great entrance point too. Like a lot of people, a lot of these NFTs are, in the hundreds of ETHs, right? Yeah. Like 300 ETHs I've seen for a Bored Ape or like Jack Dorsey's tweet, right? So NFTs have seemed out of reach for a lot of people. Yeah. And I think part of it's like education. A lot of people don't understand why these are going for crazy amounts, and all of it just comes down to like supply and demand.
Right. Right. And I was going to say, too, I was talking to my friend who works at OpenSea, and we were saying, like, I think the best way to get into the community to actually get into the community, not just like these CryptoPunk Bored Apes massive projects that are millions of dollars to purchase, is like just to start issuing, if you're an artist, start issuing stuff for free and see what people are interested in purchasing or buying, or because I think there actually are a lot of artists who are interested in posting their work on these platforms and have a lot of talent and are incredibly creative and have so much to offer, and this is just a new medium of them selling. And I think people have so much respect for people in that, or like artists just starting or getting in the industry, and people want to support you. And like, just because you're a smaller artist doesn't mean you can't also make money. It's like, I think there's this saying, wig me, we're all gonna make it. So people say that all the time in this space, and it's like, people are very supportive, and it is a small community, and I think
small but growing
very rapidly.
But like the NFT space in general, do you know what it's worth right now? Because I've seen like there's more trading value for there was more trading volume for NFTs than there were for some altcoins as of January. Like, we're definitely, I don't know if we're in a bubble just yet. I think we're definitely getting there, but trading volume is picking up substantially.
I've seen how NFTs are like outgrowing crypto though. I've seen a lot of posts about that. It's really interesting though. So
I definitely see it. Like, even we're in a crypto winter. So a lot of different crypto projects, like even alt projects. I've been in different communities, like looking at the space, and there's not a lot of traction. There's not a lot of momentum. But with NFTs, there is so much activity. So much is happening. And like, people launch projects every day. So I think like literally just getting started is like, sell something, even if it's free. Put your name out there, join Twitter, join Discord, join what's the other one? Clubhouse. I think Clubhouse is dying. I was on Clubhouse like this time last year, and it was great. I met some really cool people. I actually had a couple super interesting people on my podcast. This one guy, he was a 9/11 survivor. He was an executive at NYMEX, which is like it's the New York Mercantile Exchange. And he used to trade like back in the day when we didn't have computers, and you were like yelling at people in like this big space. It's super, super cool. He's trading commodities.
Interesting.
So he's like a great person that I have in my network now, and like just a bunch of other people. Farouk, I don't know if you know him.
I think that sounds familiar.
He posted, or he created an NFT collection called Rug Radio. Where he was big on Clubhouse. He hosted rooms. He had like Lex Friedman, all these super interesting people come in, and he used that skill set and created an NFT collection where people's voices are heard. So it's their voice notes almost. I'm not sure exactly where he wants the collection to go, but super cool.
Very cool.
That's why I was saying Clubhouse. I don't know how popular it is anymore.
I don't know what happened. I feel like they've like fell off. I have not been on Clubhouse in a long time, if I'm being honest with myself. But I know in the beginning, like probably last year, people were really big in the NFT space on Clubhouse too.
That's where I found out about what NFTs were. And we had like some chats. I was, just learning about it at that point. And it's crazy how much the space has evolved since then, Absolutely wild.
It's crazy.
So talk to me about the Toronto collection.
The Toronto project. Okay, so I had some lessons learned from the Material Girls. I learned about utilities and what to do and how to promote your project a little bit better, because I'm like, people don't just buy random stuff on the internet just because someone said to. It's not how that works. So I did some brainstorming, and I went back, and I'm like, what would be really cool, because my original TikTok career, it didn't start in NFTs. I was actually vlogging, and I'm a really big like foodie. I hate that word, but like I love going to try restaurants and like new experiences and things in the city, and I would always do like these reviews, and like I feel like that's what people knew me for, of like, I only trust your opinion with food and like restaurant reviews and whatever it is that you're doing. So it's funny. I'm like, I want something that brings back the community, because I feel like we're all craving that in a sense. Like, I haven't interacted with people because of COVID or met new people because of COVID, and I want to be around like creative people and creative individuals who kind of fuel that. 100%. And I know there is a community like that in Toronto, but I feel like it's not as strong as maybe like Montreal or other cities like New York. And I'm like, how do we tap into that? So I was like, what would be really cool is if I created like, I like to refer to it as like a digital Soho House membership, where you can purchase a membership and have access to all these exclusive events, access to all these creators in the city, create this whole network of amazing people who want to collaborate and work together and like really build up the city and just make cool shit. Like,
I love that. And I told you, we talked about this before. I'm like, I'm definitely minting one of those.
Yeah. So the idea is we're going to issue We haven't decided how many, between 500 and 1,000 memberships a year, which is cool because if, say, for example, you purchase a membership for this year, or even after 6 months you don't want it, you can always resell it. And if that value of the membership goes up, then you can make that money, and then the royalties go back to Minted Toronto's, which the project's called. But the idea is we want to give back to the community, the creative community in Toronto. We want to give back to businesses in Toronto, so we want to have exclusive, like, my idea is like it'd be fun to do like a tasting menu and 20 people. There's 20 slots available this month for anyone in the community. It's free to join because your membership cost covers it, and you just show up and you get to network with whoever else comes. And the idea is it's all for creatives. Cool. Yeah. And then we want to have panels and workshops and like, hey, I'm a videographer and you're a photographer. How can we collaborate and work together, and how can we learn from each other? Or like, maybe you're a pottery artist and like, I want to take a pottery class. Can we have people from the Minted community have a free class every month or something? And I really want to open the doors for a lot of people and just like really bring out the connection and collaboration and just community back to Toronto.
What I find with a lot of projects is like the longevity of what they're doing is that we lose sight of that, right? It's all the initial phase where you're like, I have this great idea, I'm going to create this big project, but following through with it and like actually executing on it, you have to run a business, right? Essentially you're building relationships with people, there's operations involved, so it becomes really complex. And that's where a lot of projects I see fail, because they don't have that end in sight. They don't know what they're building. They just want to build this big community, and then what are you going to do with it? And so I think this community has a lot of purpose, and I have a vision of what I want to do with the community in terms of like, again, like keynote speakers, workshops, activities, exclusive events. I think it'd just be fun to bring everyone together, and I feel like we're really missing that, especially after COVID. 100%. And I've heard a lot of people, and maybe that's just my experience of people complaining like, I don't know how to meet people in Toronto, or I'm new to the city. Like, what do you do? Toronto is known for that, like, you know, the typical Toronto girls that just are not approachable. Like when I had single friends and we would go out, it would be the worst because, you know, like Toronto girls specifically, I don't know what it is, they have this like vibe about them and they're so stuck up, but then you go to a new city, you meet someone from Toronto and they're so open. Exactly. So like, how do we bring that openness back to the city? We need that. We really do need that, and I feel like I just want to change the culture there a bit, because I think that's like a complaint I hear quite a lot from a lot of people. And just like, I know there's so many creative cool people, like let's tap into that, let's build that up. But yeah, like you said, it's like, this is a business. In the beginning, like, this is an amazing idea, I love it, and now that we're actually building it, I'm like, this is so much work. Like, but you hire people, right? So we have a team now we're working with. So another really big creator in Toronto, his name is Chu. He's part of the co-founding team with me, and he got into the NFT space. He's also a YouTuber, a FIFA YouTuber, so he's very cool. So like, I love that he's like a creative, someone I probably wouldn't normally like talk to if I didn't know through other friends, right? But like, amazing at what he does, and has a huge following and a huge platform. But again, like, maybe I'm not interested in FIFA and gaming, but someone else in the community is like, oh, I could learn from you. Can you teach me about YouTube? How do I build a platform? How do I get 500,000 followers like you? Like, stuff like that. You have so much to offer, right? And we have a few designers working with us, 3D artists working with us. We just hired a Web3 developer, so things are going. Quick question, Web3 developers, like what do they need to know? What types of languages? Great question. I don't know entirely. They have just been working in the Web3 space. We did an interview with them last night. So they've worked with other projects. I actually don't know what languages they know. That was more so just like for personal interest, because I've been in the space, like I've worked with all kinds of different developers, and Solidity developers specifically are really tough to find. So if you found somebody that knows that, like, hold on to them. Exactly. So they're actually from New Zealand, which is very random. So again, very hard to find. Even like blockchain developers, hard to find. It's very niche, and not a lot of people know how to do it. So if anyone out here is doing computer science, you want to call me. We need a front-end developer too to do our website. Those are easier to find. Just Upwork or TopTal. But like, then you're like, okay, so I want to build this platform, I want to build this network. Now I have to go reach out to the businesses and create those relationships and find creators who either want to be in the NFT space, want to learn about the NFT space, or already do. So where's that sweet spot of people, right? I think you find people that have the skill set and then you sell the project to them.
Yeah.
You bring them on board. But there's so much potential here. I've said that like 7 times. But I'm like truly amazed. Like it's not just JPEGs that you right click and save. Like it is so much more than that.
Yeah.
And I feel like we went deep into different use cases. We talked about like what the future of this looks like. The future of fashion in this space is something that I don't think we chatted about as much, but it's fascinating to me, like what's possible out there for creators. So just a whole lot of development. The cool thing that I've seen, I've talked about this a little bit, I've seen companies that issue mortgages as NFTs. That blew my mind when I saw that. And they're issuing debt against like NFTs that you own too. That's a whole other.
That's so smart. Very smart.
But the only thing with that is like as an actuary, how do you, or not as an actuary, but how do you underwrite something like that? Because the value of it changes so much. So it becomes very difficult to pinpoint because it's all supply and demand, right? Whereas with real estate, you have like the market is valued at a certain amount. You know what I mean?
That's really interesting. So I'm trying to wrap my head around.
No, it's still like for me too.
Interesting. So another project I worked on, like I mentioned, I've been at IBM for a while and we've done some blockchain stuff. But it's interesting to see like governments and like public sector start getting to the space. Not necessarily NFTs, maybe they don't understand what that is yet, but starting to talk about digital identification on blockchains. How do we issue maybe even like passports or driver's license, health cards? How can we do that digitally? So I've seen other places do like vaccine passports. So we've had this huge like revolution in vaccine passports and standardizing smart health cards across the world because of COVID. And of course, COVID has been a really difficult time. And but I think we've really made some technological breakthroughs of what we can do with the space. And if we can all come together and start standardizing things, and if we can have things like a smart health card on a blockchain, what does that mean for a global scale? What does that mean, like I said, for anything else digital identity wise?
People are definitely going to be concerned about having their health data on being publicly available. So that's where Web3 comes in and making sure that, you know, your private health information doesn't become publicized on a ledger for everyone to see. Exactly. And how is that shared just between you and whatever institution you're working with? Right? So if you're in a different country, you need to go to a hospital, just they are able to see it.
And so that's where like QR codes become really interesting of who's able to scan that and access that data. And like private blockchains and whatnot. So
QR codes had the biggest glow up.
I know. I was gonna say QR codes were known as like a disease in like the tech world, and now it's like QR codes are everywhere. You need that. They actually had purpose, and which is like funny. They really did have a glow up.
I put a QR code on our packaging for one of my e-commerce brands like a year before COVID hit, and I was like, I had to teach people how to use it, like put in a note that said scan me and like explain. Whereas now like everyone knows second nature, you know?
They know how to use it, they know how to figure it out. And it's interesting what information. So like again, for like a smart health card, for example, the QR code can only be read by specific issuers who can scan the QR code. So that's how like your data could be protected. And for example, like if we're able to break out different types of ID based on whatever QR code information you want to share, so whether that's like a QR code for my driver's license versus health card, like an example we said is like, if I'm going to a bar, why am I showing someone my driver's license? You have access to my name, my address. All you really need to know is my age and a picture of me to validate that it's me. We can do that with a QR code without someone else actually reading the rest of your information, right? So we have to understand what the purpose of what information people need to see, and like the purpose of that in order to like make that whole breakthrough into just having everything in an Apple Wallet, for example, instead of carrying around cards, and if you lose your card, what happens and stuff
still
like that.
Makes me uneasy, right? Like if your phone dies, what happens
what do you
then?
do?
Right?
Yeah.
It's like back in the summer when I was going out like to eat, and you need to show your vaccine passport, everything's on your phone. Your phone dies, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, you can't do anything. So that'll be interesting too, because I thought about that recently. I'm like, if I had a passport on my phone and my phone's dead,
you're not traveling that day. You gotta find a charger.
You gotta go find a charger. You better find a charger. I mean, I feel like most people are pretty good about leaving the house with a full battery in their phone, but I mean, shit happens. So
yeah, definitely not me. I forget to charge my phone all the time.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so like need to charge it at night. Otherwise, if I wake up and I'm like, oh, my phone's dead, I'm like, shit.
Yeah, I just don't like to have it in my room. I'm really big on like getting proper sleep because I haven't been getting great sleeps recently. So I tried to sleep in like a completely pitch black room, and like, I don't know, I keep my phone in a different space.
Yeah, that's smart though. I need to do that.
Yeah, but it's problematic like when I need to wake up because I have to get Alex to set an alarm on his phone, and then he always snoozes. Yeah. And then I'll get mad at him for snoozing my alarm, and so it's not a great way to start your day.
No, it's not. Waking up late, sleeping in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not fun.
So governments are going to be using smart contracts as ways to validate information.
Yeah.
What other kind of applications are there, and like what other things have you seen in the space?
I think like we said, like mortgages, real estate licenses will be interesting. Who was I talking to? I think this is a thing maybe in other countries where people are having difficulty authenticating their real estate of who owns what piece of land, and how
especially in Albania and like Eastern European countries. It's a huge problem because post communism, ownership went back to like who originally owned that land years ago. So
now you have to like figure that out, who was the original owner. My friend in Nigeria, he was like, we have this problem all the time in Nigeria, like people fight, or like if you're not on the land or if you're not present, people will just build over it and then it's gone and it's not yours. And they have a hard time tracking all that documentation and data. So I was like, that could be a very interesting use case of like real estate ownership, licenses there. Literally anything you carry in your wallet could totally just be a
smart contract.
A smart contract, yeah.
What's fascinating to me is with home ownership. Like I can totally see multiple parties, like friends, family members coming together to own real estate. And like you can do that through a corporation. Yeah. But there are so many extra levels of complexity right now. Yeah. Whereas like if you just wanted to buy a house with a friend, like imagine being able to do that through an NFT.
Yeah. Just go in. Yeah. Together.
I don't know if NFT is going to be the final word for this. Like I know NFTs are just non-fungible tokens, which means it's unique ownership, but I'm curious to see like how the term is going to evolve, and maybe for different industries we just call it a smart contract. Yeah. And it's, standard way of information. Like I think about the printing press, and I talked about this a little bit in my last episode about how that completely changed the world. Yeah. And made books be able to be reproduced like for the masses. Yeah. And it educated people, caused the Enlightenment period. And the same thing I think is going to happen with NFTs. Yeah. Impacting
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can feel it.
You can feel it. Feel it. And like once you have that, like it just takes that like one aha moment. You're like, oh my God, this has so much value. Yeah. And like I had that one moment. I'm like, wait, there's so many things that we can do with this. This is so valuable. And yeah, maybe I feel like in our industry, at least in government and public sector and IBM, like most people call them smart contracts. Essentially they're kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's just unique ownership.
Yeah. And like I think maybe that's more of a digestible term than NFT or like non-fungible token.
Even though fungible, Yeah,
exactly. And that's like an economic term too. Yeah. So if you're not in economics, you're like, what? That sounds like just a weird made up word that someone just threw out there and it stuck. But
did you study economics in school?
No, I studied global business and digital arts, which is very random.
Interesting. But, digital arts.
Digital arts. So I'm like in this space. I've been in a weird career path, I guess, because I learned a little bit of like design, user experience design, business. Like I took economics and accounting and all that, but also like computer science and
very cool,
like arts classes. So it was like a very random degree, but it seems to be paying off quite a bit now.
That is probably the best degree for like what you're doing now, because I'm thinking like I went to school for business for like marketing and strategy. Yeah. And I wish I learned how to code. My brother now is in Queens, like he's in software. I wish I had that skill set because there are so many things that you can do once you actually understand how to build things. Like my skill set now lies in finding the right people who can build whatever vision I have. But I wish I could actually like sit down and just, if I wanted to mint an NFT, for example, like understand the coding behind it. Right. I can't necessarily do that. I have to find someone to help me.
Exactly. I've fully given up on that dream. I thought I wanted to get into computer science at one point in university, but then I'm like, this shit is hard. Yeah. And I could not wrap my head around it. It's like X is greater than signs, less than signs, equal signs, and ors. And I was just like, I can't, no, this just makes no sense. So, I mean, that's one superpower I don't have. I can understand like HTML and CSS and like make like a website, a very basic website.
Very primitive, yeah.
Yeah.
But now with with Shopify and Wix, like you don't even need to. Yeah.
Like Square, you can make something pretty decent. Like Squarespace, you can make something pretty decent yourself without knowing any coding knowledge. So if you want to customize things, sure, but for the most part, I feel like
I've had so many examples of like me trying to change our Shopify code, completely breaking the website and freaking out because nothing is working. I just broke it.
Yeah, there's this one quote. It's like, my code is working. I don't know why. My code isn't working. I don't know why. And it's so like, funny. That's just how I felt the entire computer science class. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's maybe just not my superpower and strength, but there's people who can supplement those skills whenever you need them. Yeah.
That's the beauty of being in this kind of economy. Yeah. When you need somebody who has a certain skill set, you can connect with them through different marketplaces, right? And just the power of the internet's incredible.
Yeah, the power of the internet. I met you through the internet. Everyone I've met lately too is like through the internet. I'm like, you know what? Like your parents tell you like don't meet strangers off the internet or don't talk to people.
Hasn't been a bad experience.
I've yet to have a bad experience yet. So I'm like, nah, I don't know. Maybe I'm like rolling the dice. But
just don't meet strange men and you're good.
Yeah, just don't meet strange men and you're probably good. I mean, it's been great so far. I mean, I've met so many cool people, even off TikTok too. Just like people who reach out or people in the city who I've met. I'm like just incredible, amazing people, so talented, and like I made so many friends through this. So
I find with TikTok, like if you're putting yourself out there for masses to see, you're already like you've gone through like some healing internally. You're like, I just don't care. Like I'm gonna do it, and you know who you are, and you're confident in like what you have to offer to the world. So a lot of the creators that I've connected with have also like been people that just go out there and do their thing and aren't afraid to be themselves. Yeah, and I love connecting with people like that. So it's been awesome.
It's still scary sometimes, but like you really cannot give a fuck. Like the things you see or the comments you read, but it's like these again, you have to remember at the end of the day, it's like this is the internet. These people aren't.
They don't know me.
You don't know me personally. You would never ever come up to me and say anything like that.
And sometimes like the things that I read, like I'm like, what in the right mind like made you decide to comment this? Yeah, right. But then you realize it's just a person like projecting their own insecurities and their feelings onto you.
It's like so much of just like projection and everything else of like people don't. Yeah, it's just like it's all projection.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about a lot. So we can probably end here.
Yeah.
Because there was a ton that we got into. I feel like a lot of value for people that want to learn more about the space, want to learn how to get into the space. We talked about use cases and probably every use case possible. Every use case.
I mean, there's so many more to come that we could talk about. But
but maybe we'll do a part 2 in a couple.
Yeah,
we'll
have to do part 2.
Yeah.
We'll have to do part 2
once you become an NFT billionaire.
Once I'm an NFT billionaire, you'll hear back from me. Yeah. So it'll be great.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, this was an awesome episode. Thank you so much for listening. Tune in every Wednesday, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.
Amazing.
Cheers.
Bye.